So I'm going to begin with my first round of questions, and I'm going to turn to Larry Norton for my first question. And Larry, you live in a high-tech world in which there are some really fabulous advances in drugs, in imaging, in expensive technologies in general. And many of those would benefit people anywhere in the world. How do you see us bringing some of the advances that you're involved in on the cutting edge, but are still so expensive, to more global use?
Well, that was an easy one. It's always good to start with an easy one. The answer is you can't. It's not possible. I mean, even our standard agents, even most of our generics that we use to treat cancer, require somebody who can safely give intravenous medications and monitor toxicities, and requires skills in oncology nursing, which doesn't exist in most parts of the world. And considering priorities, of food, shelter, clothing, and basic health care that the world is facing, especially in the current economic situation and political situation, to ask people to invest in that kind of technology when they have other pressing needs is not realistic for the near future and maybe for many decades to come. This is discussed very widely. One of my roles, I was president of the American Society of Clinical Oncology, and during that same time I was also served on the National Cancer Advisory Board. And this was a very hot topic then, about 10 years ago, and has evolved into being even a hotter topic now. And the UN has gotten involved in these discussions, and non-communicable diseases, cancer, epidemic of cancer in most parts of the world is going to be occurring as we treat infectious disease better and prevent infectious disease better. And so the answer is it can't be done. And so where is the problem? I've spent, obviously, the last 10 years sort of thinking about this, trying to boil it down to its Zen essence. And I think that the real issue is that we have two systems of intellectual pursuit that live in a symbiotic relationship, but not an optimally productive one. And it's been okay so far because the economies of the developed world have been able to support it, and that is the academic environment and the industrial environment, both of which are very high quality, both of which are doing what they're supposed to doing and are really not really accomplishing their purposes in a coordinated fashion in cancer. And I'm just commenting really about cancer. And that is because the reward systems are just very, very different and to some degree incompatible. So I've worn many hats, which is the reason why I lost all my hair, by the way. I just wore it all. I've worn many hats in my career, and I was actually very fortunate. I just had a discussion with Phil Sharp, Nobel laureate, head of MIT last night, is that kind of I did it sequentially rather than simultaneously, and so I was able to immerse myself in the various aspects of my career up to the present time. And most of it spent classical academic pursuits, and there the goals are papers in premier journals and federal grants, when federal grants are obtainable. Which they, now are down to pay lines of 6%, and so now it's a whole different situation. But, for most of my career, it was in the low 20%, and they were obtainable to high quality work. And what you got rewarded for was high tech, better molecular understanding of cancer, better machinery for diagnosing cancer, better ways of delivering cancer in a very highly technical environment involving very risky situations for the patient to get down to patient safety, because those are the kinds of things that really get you papers in major journals, the major clinical journals, and certainly in terms of the basic scientific understanding of cancer, and to the basic science journals, Nature, Science, Cell, Cancer Cell, and so on. And then our academic colleagues would turn to us and say, well, give us innovative ideas. And we would give them ideas that required high technology for development, very expensive clinical trials involving thousands of patients to show very small advances. And it's culminated in the present day with sort of a focus on personalized cancer care and targeted therapy. I mean, these are terms that we always, and anybody who's been involved in cancer knows those terms. And what that really means is basic scientists, you've been publishing papers and getting grants for a whole long time, and now we're just going to take what you've done and now make it clinically relevant, where it may not be clinically relevant. If you're talking about, everybody with cancer, has their own disease, and it's not like anybody else's cancer. You see certain consistencies in the molecular changes that are associated with cancer, but they're very broad. They're very broad changes. When you talk about signal transduction, you're talking about dozens and dozens of mechanisms, and so on. I won't go into those details, but the very fact of the matter is that it's like my daughter's a musician, and so you go to festivals, and every band that's bad is bad for a different reason. All right. There's only one way a band can be good, but there are millions of ways for a band to be bad. Okay, and that's what we're dealing with cancer. And so you say, okay, give me a fix for bands. I say I can probably fix an individual band, but it's going to take a lot of effort, and it's not going to be applicable to the band that's going to be performing on the stage next. And so how did we get into this situation here? And we got into this situation because the academics were doing what they were supposed to do, which is, subdivide cancers more and more precisely and from a molecular point of view. And industries depending upon that environment to develop innovative ideas that could be translated to improve therapies, improve diagnostic tools, where it wasn't meant to do that. And so if we're really going to make a difference on a global scale, first of all, we have to develop oral medications. We got to stop developing IV drugs. We can't deliver them globally. We have to have the right balance between efficacy and safety, and it's never going to be perfect. We're never going to have perfect efficacy. We're never going to have perfect safety, but you have to have a balance. That's where my math comes in. That's what I spent my career trying to develop those tools to be able to achieve that balance. We have to make them inexpensively enough in terms of raw materials and production and testing so that you don't have to charge, a king's ransom to be able to deliver them and still be able to turn profit to be able to get investors into your company. And that's going to take a different way of approaching the problem than we have been approaching the problem. So that's, I think, the real challenge for us as we really move forward, is to reinvent the model that accomplishes what we all want to accomplish when the reward systems have pushed us in the opposite directions.
Great. Thanks, Larry.